Alright, so what is going on, guys? Welcome to a weekly outlook. Today I wanted to make this video specifically because I really like how the weekly time frames closed last week. And with companies like Apple, which carry a heavy weight on the S&P reporting this week, I really want to break down some charts that I saw, especially SPYs and ES's weekly, and just show you guys potential, I would say, continuating moves and key levels where I think that I would say these levels will show their true resistance. And then if we break these levels, then we will possibly shift the whole trend that we have, right, going into the end of the year. So I also have one stock, which I've looked at every, chart at least. And this specific chart screams, continuating opening bounce and then just continuing a build up. So let's just dive right on in with SPY. And if you look at this SPY chart specifically, we are literally at, a monthly support. If I go to it, you can see that we came down, we retested that key level where I have that alert, which I put, it's a monthly support, and price bounced very, very aggressive, right? Price then traded back up into this little liquidity zone right here. You can see, I would say 376 more or less, and we rejected, and that is where we are currently hanging right now. So when I look at the weekly, right, on SPY, I like the way it closed. Why do I like the way it closed? Because we ended up filling so much of this liquidity here that if I'm looking at any continuating move higher, then obviously the move is going to be over those weekly closes, which is what's around what, like 374. So if I'm going to look at any potential upside, I do want to see on a daily level, I want to see 374 get held and us continue to build into that possible 380 zone, where we will see for real if it is a very big resistance, right? And when we look at the E-mini, I would say the move is a little bit more clear because we already see with the gap up that we had on futures, coming today, we had a little bit of a build. I have that little alert here set. It says possible short entry, because if we obviously break that and we fall short and we just, come back down easily, then you can assume that there's going to be a bit of a heavy downside impulse down, right? But, if we break and continue building, then this is where I think that the trend shift will start coming in, right? So looking at everything from a monthly perspective, everything looks exactly the same, right? You look at this level right there on ES, which is 3502.50, which is literally the low that we had that day where we bounced very aggressive. You can see that it's holding very, very well. So looking at everything that's happening this week is just another earnings filled week. You have companies like Apple, like I said, reporting, and since they carry such a heavy weight, the main thing we want to see is how, first of all, the company did and how are they gonna go moving forward. So the guidance is what's gonna basically keep everybody on their toes, and companies with, I would say, a semi-strong guidance, which is in this macro environment, you just need to say something to calm investors down. And that's what we saw with companies like Netflix. When Netflix reported their earnings, they literally said, you know what? We're seeing subscriber counts step up again. I think we're doing well. And, me and you both think to each other, like, that's bullshit. Netflix is, it's a piece of shit. Everybody's moving on to, like, other things like HBO Max and whatnot. No, nobody really cares about Netflix anymore. But they were able to use, their platform to pretty much calm their investors, and that's what they did. So with how everything happened on Netflix on their earnings, this is what the results were, right? So look at the giant gap that we had from their last earnings in April, and you can see that giant gap down, right? And then going into earnings, it was just resistance to try to fill that gap, right? So we saw Netflix gapped up after the earnings report, and we're seeing continuing. Look at that close on Friday, right? Very, very, very strong close. If we look at the volume, pretty nice increasing volume. So when I look at this setup, I can assume that tomorrow is going to be continuating into this, right? So the first thing I would do coming into tomorrow, right, I'm going to mark my levels. I'm going to mark these two highs, which is 278, and then I'm going to mark the candles. I would say the candle body right there, which is 272.86 more or less. So let's call it 273. Right, for the sake of our level 2, where we want to see price really react, because we're not going to sit there and watch 272.86. No, for that we just watch that whole number, which is where we will see those real buyers step up and put in their orders, right? So I'm looking at this, and then I want to look at the weekly to show you guys easier. So If Netflix continue that gap fill, we all know resistance will start getting met here from 330 all the way to that 340 level, right? If we map out this little zone and we zoom out, right? I'll just draw a line for you guys to see. That's differentiates our macro levels. Let's call this 337. So you guys see that that's a very big key level. So if Netflix continues to build over this 280, 89, 290 level into 300, then we're gonna possibly get that move up. So we mark our levels again. We have that 300 level and another resistance. And then going into tomorrow, these are the levels that we know if we get any I would say hourly closes above, we're gonna possibly continue, right? We can even assume that the next weekly candle will probably be a candle just like this. Look at the volume that we saw. We can probably see just another weekly candle into that 337. So it looks like a pretty easy setup, right? It's pretty textbook in terms of everything that we see. And it's one of the setups that I talked about earlier. This is a setup that I'm looking into tomorrow specifically, and even the rest of the week, because looking at stocks with this much strength, you can assume right at the open, right, if we're above our momentum moving averages, we're going to get easy bounces into them. We're going to get bounces into fib levels and whatnot. So those red to green trades, red to green, those red to green trades, they have a very, very nice payout, right? Because you're picking up all these contracts when they're, ridiculously cheap. And then once you start getting key level breakouts, those contracts are starting increasing, in price. And that is what we always want to, do when we're in an easy position. If we can hold the position longer with runners or whatever it is, that is what we're after, right? This is a scalper's market, to say the least. I've told this to a lot of people lately that have told me, no, man, I can't hold the setup. It's understandable, right? And then you have days that you see setups just happen throughout the rest of the day. I mean, look, here's a tip for you guys. If you're looking to hold the trade into the, the whole day, look for trades, right, into like lunch hour, right? Because lunch hour, you'll see price move one direction, and then leading into power hour, you'll get that bounce. Or right before power hour, you'll get that bounce you're looking for, and power hour just adds the volume to continue that bounce, right? So if you're looking for those macro, I don't want to say macro, but if you're looking for those micro setups, right, and you want to just hold the position longer, look at them pretty much when volume's starting to die down, when the algorithms are the ones taking over, the session. Once you get those, I would say, continuing moves, and you start seeing them drop into key levels, you see buyers sitting there, you start seeing or sellers sitting there, and you see reversals of the current little trend that it's happening, then you can take those counter trend plays that can possibly give you a nice payout. But that's pretty much it for today, guys. I think it's just going to be an easy standard session for this week. With these companies, we obviously do want to see what they're going to do, how strong are their earnings or their guidance going to be moving forward, and how will the S&P digest it, and pretty much, the whole market. I mean, I think the next event that everybody obviously is looking forward to is the next FOMC now in November. It's coming up. So, we just got to play with what they give us until then. And remember, don't let your bias guide your trading, right? Always trade price. Don't think because we gap down into the open and it's 8:30 and you see the gap down, that by 9:30 you won't see that gap almost filled. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes I've sat in this desk and I've seen a gap up or down and I think, well, the gap fill is going to be the trade I'm going to take. And I never get the trade because the gap either fills pre-market. And then what I'd like to do is just like any other trader would, and the same thing I explain to everybody, you let that macro build, right? You let that height of day or low of day build to drive your bias moving forward, right? So with that, guys, I wish you a very nice day and a very nice session for the rest of the week. Good luck, and I will see you guys on the next recap.